All right, welcome, Pastor. Thanks for joining us in the chat room. Good to see you again. Like that shirt, you're looking good. Staying warm.
Hey, I appreciate it. I got to stay warm, man. It's freezing out here.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Pastor Stephenson, and what do you stand for?
All right. Well, first, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this conversation with you. Well, I'm a 36-year-old lifelong resident of Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised here. Love it here. I'm a third generation Armour, actually. I'm the oldest of three, born from the union of Armour Jr. and Shirley Stephenson. I have 4 children, a Maris who is 14, 15. I got so many kids, I forget how old they are. A Maris who is 15, Armour who is 13, Armour the 4th, Ashton who is 11, and Aiden who is 7. And so we're pretty busy over here. 3 boys, 1 girl. I'm married to Jessica. She's an amazing woman. I love her so much. We've been married for 16 years. I also have the honor and the privilege of pastoring, in my opinion, the awesomest church on the planet. And yes, I'm biased. City of Truth Church right here in the greatest city in the world, Kansas City. I've been pastoring City of Truth for 14 years. And last but not least, I am a very involved Kansas City Chiefs fan, and that's just
right.
With me light.
Yeah,
I am extremely involved. I am a Chief fanatic.
So am I. I'm all in. I'm still recovering after
we don't have to talk about it. Please, right. I can't
either. It's still hard. So kids are learning from home now. What's the school situation like?
Yep, they're at home. They're still virtual. We're planning on letting them go back next year once everything calms down. But they've been virtual this entire part of the school year, and it's been interesting to say the least. But I can say we have adjusted, and the kids have gotten used to it, so it's a lot easier. There's kind of a flow and a routine with it now. But it has definitely been a challenge. But we've been weathering the storm with them throughout this pandemic, and we're seeing some fruit from it. My kids' grades are good. My oldest son, his grades are better than they've ever been, and that's been a blessing. So we are seeing some fruit in this season.
Well, it's certainly put a lot of stress on a lot of people, and there is. I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, vaccines are coming out, and not fast enough, but we're going to get there eventually, and hopefully back to some type of normalcy.
Right. That's what I'm praying and I'm hoping for, man. We definitely need it. It's been a heck of a year in 2020, and a heck of a start of the year in 2021.
So what made you decide to become a pastor of the great church that you lead right now?
Wow. That's a very good question. So my story is a little different. I'm a PK. For those of you who are watching and you don't know what PK means, PK stands for preacher's kid. So I grew up a pastor's kid. For 10 years, my dad pastored Parkway Baptist Church, which is now the church I pastor. I changed the name to City of Truth Church. So my story of transitioning into pastoring was birthed out of tragedy, and here's how. Back in 2005, both my mom and my dad were killed in a plane crash. They were going on vacation. Company was building the church, and the company who was building a new church that they were wanting to build had an airplane that would yet let people use, and they got on that plane January 21st, 2005, man, yeah, and plane went down, killed everybody in the plane, and left me, my newlywed wife, and my 3 other siblings pinned underneath the heavy weight of trauma and the heavy weight of grief, and church was in disarray, and people were grieving and crying and, trying to figure out what was next. And so throughout my life, I felt this call on me to lead others and this call on me to minister, but I was running from it. It was something I really didn't necessarily want. I wanted to be a singer, an R&B singer. I wanted to be in Hollywood somewhere doing something like that. But this calling on me intensified during that season of my life to the point that I couldn't shake it and I couldn't run from it. And so I prayed. I sought pastoral counsel, pastoral mentorship for a year or so. after all that happened. And then once that year was up, at the ripe old age of 22, I assumed the role and office of pastor. Made me want to pastor. Obviously, first it was to be obedient to the hand of the Lord that was on my life and that specific calling. But my mindset also was to honor the memory and legacy of my mom and dad by carrying their work rather further forward. So that's kind of the thing that led to me picking up that pastoral mantle of what is now City of Truth Church.
Well, it's a fantastic story, and I'm sure your parents are incredibly proud of you as they look down on you. I mean, everything I hear from our agents that are part of your church love and respect you and get a lot of guidance from you. And again, I think your parents would be very, very proud of the person you've become.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, so we talked about Chiefs a little bit. You're a lifelong Kansas City, and so am I. I've lived here all my life. I was a Kansas City, Missouri boy. My wife pulled me over to the Kansas side, but my heart's still over there in KCMO. Yeah. But talk to me a little bit about what makes Kansas City home to you. Why have you stayed here all these years?
Brother, I love Kansas City. I grew up and going through high school and college. I would have these friends be like, man, I can't wait to get out of Kansas City. I'm moving out. I can't wait. I never felt that way. Like, I love Kansas City. Now, I'll visit other cities and all that, but as cliche as what I'm getting ready to say may sound, it is so true to me. There is no place like home, man. So what makes Kansas City home to me? I would say, just as simple, I would say the fact that it's perfect for me. It's just perfect for me. It's upbeat. It's an upbeat city, but it's not too fast. It's a paced city, but it's still not too slow. Feels like home. There are so many cultures here, and it seems as if, for the most part, everyone expresses themselves in such a way that is unique and it adds value to this city as a whole. It is definitely home. I love the Chiefs. I love the Royals. I love the barbecue. I love everything about Kansas City. There's no place I'd rather be. So it's just perfect for me. It's a perfect fit. It was like God knew exactly the city I would need to be born in, the city I would need to live in. And he blessed me with Kansas City. There's no place like Kansas City.
I feel the same way. I've never moved out. I mean, I went to school at William Jewell Liberty, so I haven't really gotten very far away at all. Yeah. So, but I just love it here, and it's my home, and it'll always be my home. So I know this, that you and your wife just purchased a home not too long ago. What has that meant for your family? Why did you go down that path? Explain to me the process and why that was so important to you.
Yeah, another great question, man. Personally, my story, this isn't my wife's story. Hers is different than mine, but my personal story is I've always grown up in the context of home ownership. My parents were homeowners. So owning a home has always kind of been ingrained in me from the beginning. Like, it was just what I assumed was supposed to happen, right? You're supposed to grow up, supposed to go to college, supposed to have enough money, supposed to buy a house, get married, get a dog, the American dream, right, so to speak. But as you look at the grand scheme of things, namely economically, you'll see that home ownership and generational wealth are inseparably connected. Wealth and ownership go hand in hand for the most part. So in my estimation, and many people agree, being a homeowner means you have a very sure opportunity to create and invest in wealth that will outlive you and outlast you. And so that wealth, it's the kind of wealth that can be passed down to those who come after you. It's wealth that can help those behind you be all that they're called to be, and prayerfully, in that they'll be able to be that without a lot of the obstacles that can come from not being healthy financially. So in essence, man, home ownership is a very large piece to a healthy financial pie. And I just looked at it like that my whole life, and we were finally able to make that happen.
That's awesome. So explain the feeling that you had when you and your wife and the kids walked through the front door that first time, and you spent the first night in your house. And what was that feeling like?
Man, it was one of the best feelings ever. And interesting enough, Interestingly enough, my wife and I, we've only been homeowners now for a total of 6 months. So we're 6 months in, and we're still newlyweds with this thing. So we just purchased our first home and we're loving it. And to be honest, man, our experience was, number one, smoother than we thought it would be, and number two, smoother than it would have been had we tried to purchase the home before we were ready. And here's what I mean. The reason it was smoother than we thought it would be is because in God's grace and in his sovereign wisdom, he surrounded us with people that we would need to help us through the process. So for instance, the young lady who was our realtor during this process is a member of our church. Not Lene, it's another girl. She's a member of our church, and she is one of our very best. She's near and dear to us. She's babysat our children, and so the whole nine. So that part of the process was extremely helpful. You know how that goes. The relationship with a realtor is extremely important. It's a lot of numbers and trust and all that kind of stuff, but God had that in place for us. And I said it was smoother than what it would have been, because in order for us to get in position to make this purchase, we had to get our financial picture in a healthy place. And so I thank God for surrounding us with people who are smarter than us when it comes to finances, who taught us how to make sure our credit score was healthy. And I want to say not our credit karma score, but our FICO score. we wanted to make sure we saved enough money and did the things that we needed to do. And also, I believe that the favor of God moved to make things move in our behalf, stuff that we couldn't do on our own. So we purchased our first home. We loved it. We spent the night in it. We woke up. My wife and I still walk around our house like, babe, this is ours. And I'll ask my wife periodically, throughout the month, hey, you like your house? She's like, I love it. And that's kind of a thing that we do. And so we're extremely excited. Our kids are excited. I'm glad I'm able to display this to our children. And it's just a blessing. It's just a blessing, and we love it.
So if someone dumped a pile of money on you and said, you can remodel one room, Pastor, what would you go after first?
I like how you phrase it. If I could, you and I both know that our wives are in total control of how their house is going to look.
Yes. And anybody that tells you different is not telling you the truth.
Exactly. But actually, I'm actually renovating right now a small unfinished area in our home, and I'm making it my study / recording studio. So I do music and everything like that. Yeah. So I guess that would be the one room I would put in all the equipment and all the stuff that I would want to make that thing come into a reality.
Now, do you have a big screen there where you can watch the Chiefs too in that room?
All that. I'm putting all that in there. I'm putting Patrick Mahomes pictures and flyers all up on the wall. It's going to be a Chiefs zone out room.
Yeah. To go down a different direction right now, what a great example of a person that's trying to do stuff not only for himself and for the Chiefs, but also for the community. Patrick Mahomes, just a great example of someone that's got his head on straight and doing the right thing. I mean, I love that example. How familiar are you with do you think African Americans are with ReeceNichols and what we do?
Hey, ReeceNichols is a big deal. So I'm positive many African Americans, people of color, are familiar with ReeceNichols by name and branding standard. But as far as being familiar with the services, I'm not too sure. I would say that there's definitely the general knowledge that ReeceNichols helps people sell homes, purchase real estate. But beyond that, honestly, I couldn't tell you, but honestly, I can only speak for me and those friends and family members that I personally know. The people in my proximity are well acquainted with ReeceNichols and its services. So I'll say in my circle, my vicinity, I think the knowledge is there.
So there's a recent study by the Urban Institute that the gap in Black and white home ownership is greater than it's ever been prior to the Fair Housing Act, which is, I mean, just beyond me how that's happening. There's 30 percentage points between what the people of white or Caucasian and Black people buying homes. So, we had a recent meeting when we talked about some stuff we wanted to do with the constituents in your church to help train and educate them on the home buying process. So what else can we do? What other things do you think there are for the company to do to bridge that gap, to help people realize that transitional wealth has to start with the home ownership purchase. So in your opinion, what can we do there?
Yeah, we talked about the, like you said, the importance of workshops to provide education. And so I feel like education is extremely important to the flourishing of community and family, to any community, to any people group. Education is extremely pertinent to the flourishing and growing of that particular community group. And it was one of the things that my ancestors fought for vehemently. So, because I know that the more you know, the better you can do. And also, the more you know, the more you're able to pass down to those who will come after you. So I think education is extremely important, and it's an extremely important step in closing the gap. However, I don't think that it is the only step that should be taken. I think a lot of the solutions to these detrimental issues have to be assisted with policies from the top that help to close the gap, and things like tax relief, I believe, are paramount in resolving this issue, and also state level policy would be extremely helpful as well. So education, obviously, but also we're gonna have to rally and get policies passed that can help to close this gap, not just at a national level, but also a local state level as well.
Well, and I think some of the things you hit on, like credit repair, we got to help people with that, to show them, how you get there. And sometimes it's lost on some people. How can I even repair my credit?
Yeah.
How do we get down payment assistance plans? Because a lot of people in people of color don't have the capital right now to put down on a home, but they're still spending way too much money on their rental property. So we've got to figure out that as well. I mean, we're working really hard to figure all these things out. And I appreciate your input on these, because it really makes a difference. It takes all of us to make change happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll wind it up here with something like this. So you're still pretty young. 36 is not old at all, but so 20 years from now, you're 56. That's how old I am. How would you like people to think about you? 3 adjectives that describe you 20 years from now. What will people be saying about Pastor Stephenson?
Wow. So I don't think there's a proper adjective for this, so I'll just use it in a noun form. I think first I'd like to be remembered as a man of integrity. Maybe the word is integrous. I don't know, but I think that would be the first way I would like to be thought of, as someone with integrity who cared. And second thing is brave. Now, I'm not saying fearless. Now, being brave and fearless, I believe, are kind of two different things. I just think that in spite of the fear, bravery is doing what you know to do anyway. So brave, and also I would say faithful. I would say faithful. That I want to be looked at as a faithful husband, a faithful father, and a faithful minister of the gospel, and a faithful member of my community. So those 3 things: integrity, bravery, and faithfulness.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. That's maybe the best one we've ever had here. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart too, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time today. We're going to continue to work together and solve these issues and help the people of your community, your church, because I do think, from our initiative that we got with our African-American agents getting into churches and starting with that education, it'll be followed up with our marketing towards those people, and also from a mortgage perspective, figuring out how to help people with their credit, help people with their down payment assistance. And then we'll work hard to figure out the political side on tax credits and that kind of stuff. I think those are really, really important. And if we can do all that, and I told our people this morning, it's not a 1 day, a 1 week, a 1 month, a 1 year. This is forever until we get real change in this. And if we do that, then as you and I are lifelong Kansas City will be even greater in the future.
That's good. Absolutely. I agree. 100%. I 100% agree.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks again.
Hey,
stay warm. Go Chiefs. We're already starting on next year, right?
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Pastor.
All right.
Bye now.